I have Michelle Mitchell with us today. Thanks for joining the summit or joining the call today.
Thank you for having me.
For those of you who don't know Michelle, she is a mindfulness coach. She is an expert in stress management and stress reduction strategies. And so I'm excited to talk to you today about how we could be more mindful and how we can implement some stress reduction strategies to reduce pain specifically. What is your background? How did you get into studying about mindfulness and stress reduction?
Well, mindfulness has always been a part of my life. It just kind of came up through my family and my culture. And it's something that I really pushed against and shied away from until I got into adulthood and the world, changed. And all of a sudden I needed tools. So I went back and studied what my family had done as a tradition, studied it more formally. And one of the systems that caught my eye was mindfulness-based stress reduction. So I went to UCSD extension and got my certification in mindfulness-based stress reduction and started using that everywhere, and with my family, at work, with friends. And it really kind of inspired me to start to use it deeply with my clients.
That's great. For people who don't know what that is, can you just define what mindfulness-based stress reduction is?
Absolutely. In a nutshell, it's a system that gives you tools that you can do at home by yourself, with yourself, to deepen that conversation between your mental body and your physical body. A lot of times we are under the illusion that there's some separation, that our mind and our body are two separate things, when in fact they are really connected. And there are a lot of times in life where we lack that conversation. We know something and we ignore it. So there's a little bit of a disconnect. Our body's trying to tell us something, but our mind is telling us something else. These practices taught in mindfulness-based stress reduction, really practiced on a daily basis, help you to deepen that conversation with your physical body and your mental body. And it kind of clears the channel to manage our stress, our anxiety, our pain, and recognize red flags before things get really bad.
I could see how that develops with when you have research, for example, if you're studying lower back pain or you're studying a specific injury, at times the research has to focus on a specific character trait of that injury or of that pain. And so we end up getting these compartmentalized approaches, and you have these different healthcare providers that specialize in a certain area. And that is what's usually explained to the patient or for what's going on. And so, but we don't get this comprehensive strategy for reducing pain that involves mindfulness as well. And how could some strategies help with chronic pain? So somebody that has been dealing with this issue for more than 3 months or even longer than that, can the pain even change at that point?
Well, here's the difference that makes the difference. To think about something is different than to be aware of something. So let's just sit with that for a second. When you think about your pain, you are constructing stories around it. There's labeling and judging of the pain. When you're aware of the pain, you're just kind of the silent observer of the pain. And it just starts to shift your perception a little bit. And there are a couple things that I really want to make sure people get today. And the first thing is being aware of the pain versus thinking about the pain. And in that, you kind of set out not to necessarily reduce the pain or get rid of the pain, but to just get curious about the pain. So when we're in pain, understandably so, we want it to end, right? We're like, this is uncomfortable. I don't want to deal with this anymore. And again, the stories flood in and we start to go down a little bit of a negative path. I had, I digress a little bit. I had a client tell me, I'm in pain all day long. And so we did an exercise, and it was an awareness exercise of the pain. She was really good about the exercise and taking notes and becoming aware. And after a week, we sat down, we looked at it, and she said, I'm not in pain all day long. I'm in pain primarily in the morning and in the evening. And she was able to look at her day a little bit differently and look at her life a little bit differently when it came to the pain, because she was telling herself that she was in pain all day long. Words matter, right? So our brain wraps around that, our emotions wrap around that, and we start going down the rabbit hole. So this kind of being aware of the pain is getting curious about it. When does it happen? Why does it happen? How does it happen? And what can I learn about it? It just starts to shift the perception. If you have this uncomfortable, I had a frozen shoulder, and it was really, really painful. And I would go to work out and I would say, my bad shoulder, right? This is my bad shoulder. And I started to shift a little bit. I thought to myself, I'm telling everybody else that words matter. And I keep calling this my bad shoulder. And I started talking about it as my shoulder, not my good shoulder, not my bad shoulder. It was just my shoulder. And then I started talking about it as my shoulder that's getting better. And I did have to do the work. I had to do the physical therapy, and I had to, get up and make sure I was eating right and taking the right supplements. But those words matter because they changed how I looked at myself when I went to the gym, or how I looked at myself when it hurt. I wasn't like, oh, it's that bad shoulder again. It was like, wow, that's the shoulder that's getting better. Now I get this deeper conversation with my shoulder. Hey, this is the shoulder that's carried me for 50 years, right? So now there's a little bit of appreciation and gratitude in that. It's not this is broken. This has done such a good job for me for 50 years. Now I'm going to have to nurture and care for it. So it's that deeper conversation with our body.
I like what you said about having an awareness of the pain, not to be obsessive about the pain, but just to have an awareness to understand its characteristics and its quality and when you have the pain. Because when you can understand that, then you can start to decrease some of those factors that are causing it. You might notice some patterns in behavior with types of foods that you eat or certain body positions that you're in. And like you said about the pain being in the morning and in the afternoon, that's an important thing to bring up, because when I was seeing people in the clinic, I'm not right now because of the stay-at-home orders, but when I was working with people in the clinic, they would come in, and that question, one of the first questions that a physical therapist typically asks their patient is, how are you doing? How did the exercises go? And it's just an open-ended question. And the response can sometimes be, I'm the same, or I hurt all day. And you need to ask probably 3 follow-up questions to be able to get more detail, because usually that's not the case. Usually somebody is actually better, or there's more characteristics about when that pain occurs. And so they're not in pain all the time. They're just in pain during certain moments of the day.
It's so easy to just paint it with one broad brush. But yeah, I think that's probably one of the keys, is to observe it. You become the silent, don't judge it. It's not bad. It's not good. It doesn't hurt because I probably shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't have climbed that extra bit on the mountain, or whatever it was. These stories that we tell around the pain can help or intensify it. The stories that we tell around the pain can create more stress and anxiety, and really kind of dig us into a hole. So I have my clients use a log even when we talk about pain. And, like you said, what did you eat? What were you doing? Who was there? And really more importantly, what story were you telling yourself when you were experiencing your pain?
So you're really linking in that sensation or that feeling or that interpretation with their whole mental state at that time. So
Yeah.
it's not just experiencing a sharp shooting, stabbing pain at that moment. You're also extrapolating and asking them, what are you telling, what are you saying to yourself about that? Are you
Yeah.
telling yourself that you're never going to go to the gym again? Are you telling yourself that forget it, I'm never going to wear high heels again because that
Right.
always hurts my feet? That's
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. So, I mean, I was going to ask about any specific ways to implement that. Like, how does that even, how does one begin to start to rewire their brain and start thinking like that?
So there's, it's a vast conversation, but what when we experience something, we have these internal representations inside of our minds about it. My internal representation is different to yours. Everyone sees things differently. And so I might dislike tomatoes because my mom made me eat too many tomatoes, and you might love tomatoes because you got to eat them whenever you wanted to eat them. So there's certain things that happen that we have stories that we tell ourselves around, and it comes back to awareness. And when you think of mindfulness is about paying attention on purpose without judgment. And so it's again the awareness and becoming aware of, I just had a negative thought about the pain. The pain just came on, and now I have a negative thought about it. That awareness, you catch that thought and you retell that story in a different way, right? So I'm never going to go to the gym again. I'm working my way back to the gym. I'm never going to go to the gym again. I'm not going to make it to the gym today, but I'm certainly going to be able to walk a block. You retell the story as soon as you can catch that moment of negative spiral that's coming to you. Um, there's a couple, there's something in mindfulness-based stress reduction called the body scan. And I don't know if you're familiar with the body scan, and I know it's used a lot. And it really is simple, and it's something that you can look up, and there's a lot of different versions of it. It's one of the best things that you can do to kind of recalibrate where you are. Like you said, if the pain comes on, what's the hack, right? What do you do in that moment? And one of the things that I do and I use with my clients is, whether I'm sitting in the car or I'm at the grocery store or wherever I am, you can do a quick body scan. You can close your eyes, you can leave them open, and you just really start at the tips of your toes, and you just start scanning up your body. And for me, I express gratitude for the parts of my body that are working well. And when I scan up and I get to that part of my body that's giving me some trouble, I send compassion and light to that part of my body, instead of saying, it's the bum leg or it's my bad leg. When I get to that part, I just treat it as part of my body that's supported me for a very long time, and now I'm going to support it. And just take that body scan all the way up to the top of your head, and you can do it in minutes. And it just kind of starts to redirect your mind a little bit.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's a real good strategy, because you're bringing in these abstract ideas, and to be able to create the visualization of a light going through your body, and to
Mm-hmm.
create that positive imagery of scanning. I just think of an MRI scan going from head to toe
Yeah.
and just
And
picking up on all those parts of your body that might be in pain.
And you
And
can even add, like when I do, and I see it like that too. I see it like this light, that's just kind of going, is that light for me is it's mending and healing, right? So and I don't even have to know how it's mending and healing or what it's mending and healing. I just know in my mind, that's what I'm visualizing as it scans up and through my body. It also tricks your mind a little bit, because your mind is wired to go to the pain. this hurts, focus on that. And what you're doing is you're taking some control over your life, over your body and your mind, and you're saying, I want you to pay attention to some of these other things. I want you to consider looking at it through a different lens.
Yeah, I can see how that's helpful. I could also see how this could be challenging to bring awareness to things that you're not aware of. Because
Yeah.
if you don't even know what to look for, how are you going to implement this? So when you're working with a client or when you're providing some of the one-on-one sessions with people, what is it that you're doing? How are you able to personalize this with somebody and give them that guidance that they need?
So it really just kind of depends on the person. Sometimes I use breath work. Sometimes I use the body scan. And a lot of times it's guided meditation, and just bringing the awareness of the different parts of their body. You can, when we talk about the body scan, when I say start at the tips of your toes, really think about your toes, like think about your big toe. And if you are quiet, you can actually feel your big toe, just your big toe. You can actually feel that there's a pulse happening in your big toe. It's really taking the time to be that silent observer and become aware of what's happening within your own system. And most of the work that I do is really teaching people these mindful daily practices that they can incorporate in their day. And some people are better in the morning, some people have time midday or the end of the day. So we just customize wherever it fits into their life. But once you start to have these mindful moments, you open a door, you open a window to a different possibility. And it really grows from there, and it becomes your practice. And you don't need somebody to guide you forever and ever. It's just to teach you some of these skills, and then you make it your own. These are 5,000-year-old practices that we have adapted to our world today. They worked then and they still work now.
I love what you mentioned about control as well. We in research you talk about the external locus of control and the internal locus of control, and when you can show that you can adapt and modify certain parts of your day or change your symptoms and feel better, then that really shows that there's hope. There's hope for
Oh,
improvement. There's
absolutely.
hope for getting better. And so that's really great.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I think that's the bottom line is we really do have control over, we're at cause for our experience. So we may not be responsible for what's happening outside of us. So I'm not responsible for the baseball that hit me in the back, but I'm responsible and I'm at cause for how I choose to react to that. Right? So is that going to debilitate me? Is that going to just bring some awareness to me? Am I going to heal from it? Am I not going to heal from it? That all comes from me. We can't control what's outside of us, but we can certainly control how we move forward with whatever is happening.
Yeah, that's really good. And if somebody wants to learn more about this, or if they want to get in touch with you because they need help, is there any free resource that you can share with them, or feel free to share your website as well?
Yeah, contact me on mmmindful.com and just shoot me a note. I'm happy to answer any questions. And right now I know that everybody has an added stress of being at home and having to deal with a lot more things. I was just saying earlier when we were talking offline that I have a 12-year-old, and there are a lot of extra stuff that I'm managing right now that's adding stress to my life. And I'm here, and I'm happy to answer your questions, or help you with one-on-one sessions, anything that you need.
We're all dealing with stress. We all have this thing called life that we have to navigate. We all have this physical body that can sometimes hurt and feel
Yeah.
achy and stiff, and we also have a brain that can that can change over time and improve, and our perception of pain can get better, and so can our reduction in stress. So I appreciate you sharing these real tactical strategies that we can actually start to do. The guided motor imagery was great. I love the body scan analogy, and I hope that people will take action and really help and really start to realize that they have more control over their pain.
I hope so too. There's a lot of resources out there.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.